to record. Thank you so much. Right on cue. So folks can watch it and join us for session 2 on November 2nd. So very excited that I see a lot of folks introducing themselves. We have a quite an intimate group of folks. So if you want to share with us your name, where you're calling us from, where you're participating, where is home, we would love to know who's here. So let's just take the time to review a couple of community guidelines. My hope is that these agreements, it's pretty usual for us to just go ahead and review these. This first time is going to be the first time that we're the only time that we're going to go in detail. So we will not be doing this every single session. We're just going to do it today. And then in the next sessions, we'll have a very short version of them and a visual. So folks who are joining us kind of get an idea with what are some of our values that we will be upholding during these conversations. And yeah, we'll dive in today. Welcome everyone. And some of our community agreements are, I apologize, it was a toddler who broke into this office. I don't know if you all heard that, but there was a little one joining us for a second there. So coming back again, a couple of community agreements that I want to offer is to engage in active and respectful listening and ensure that we're making space for conversation. Thank you, Nicole. We also want to invite everyone, right, to participate as they see themselves sharing on the chat or out loud. I want to make sure that we create space for that. So we ask you to be open and present. We celebrate your expertise and your own lived experience, which is exactly what we're here to celebrate. And we know that all voices are equally weighted and welcomed. So we ask that you participate fully in whatever way that feels life-giving to you. A word about the chat is our next one. It's a great opportunity to connect with community. So we want to make sure that the chat is a great place for discussion and we want to avoid debate. So if you have anything that you disagree with or that you want to raise, absolutely bring it up. And if you have additional questions, I am gladly and happily just meet with you after today. Actually, I would like to meet with everyone after today. Two more is that we at CFC affirm people about identities in the reproductive journey. So we use language that reflects and respects the goodness of all of God's creation. So you will hear us use the term women and people who can get pregnant to refer to the spectrum of identities of folks in the reproductive journey. If you have questions, curiosities, if you want to learn more about that, feel free to reach out. I will be sharing my email for a longer and deeper conversation. And my absolute favorite is share the miracle, but not the saint. This is a space where we're hoping that folks can share about their experiences, and we encourage you to do that. Just let's make sure that we respect people, personal information and keep it outside of sharing those lessons. So all of those are our community agreements. So if would like to see thumbs up if this sounds like a good plan. Awesome. Great. I see some thumbs up. So thank you so much. As the organizer and facilitator, I will make sure that I come back to these agreements when we need to return to center and kind of recommit to them. So since today is our first session. We're hoping to get to know who's here with us. And almost 100 people registered, so we know that we can't go around and kind of share in a circle, but we're going to use a fun tool to do this. So we're going to try the Zoom polls to kind of get a sense of the folks that are here. So we will be using them a couple of times today, so, and your responses will be anonymous. In a minute here, they will start popping up and it will give you a moment to share your response. If you feel like your experience is reflected in the different responses, you can always add yours. We left some blank opportunities for you to kind of get in there and add your answer. So if you haven't used polls before, this is just a fun opportunity to kind of see what happens and learn. So we want to know if event, or if you've been to many events. We want to know what are some of, if you have like any connection to the reproductive rights movement. That means that you've had an abortion. If you are a provider, we have a lot of providers in our community. And if you are a pro-choice supporter, right? A bit about your religious identity. We know that there are some folks that are Catholic, that used to be Catholic, that are non-religious, that are also part of our community, but also want to explore what it means to support the right to folks to access reproductive rights from a faith perspective. So I see some polls. I see that there are a lot of folks that are new. So welcome. We're just so excited that you're here. Let's just give folks. Awesome. Great. I see some folks still. So we'll just give you a couple of seconds. So I don't see, Lauren, the number growing. So I think we can call it a day and see. Great. Awesome. So there are some folks that are new. There are a couple of folks that are not. There are majority of folks are Catholic, but there are some other folks that are not. There are some former Catholics, some folks of other religious backgrounds, but not Catholic. And there were some folks who added some things to their own poll. So thank you for sharing. We're excited to get a sense of who is in the virtual room. I know that this would be a little bit maybe more fun if we got to, like do sticky notes and do actual raise of the hands in person and all of those things. But we're here over Zoom, and we'll make it work. So thank you, folks. The last kind of question that we want to take the temperature on before jumping in is on small groups. And we know that some folks have used small groups, some folks have not used small groups. So want to do a quick survey real quick. Want to make sure that we want to make sure that you come back next time. So that the tools that we're using are familiar to you, that you can connect with them. So in terms of how do you feel about small groups, if you have done them in the past, you love small groups, you're shy but willing to try, and you're not a fan and will rather stay in the big room, I will be staying in the big room for you if that is the case. So we just want to kind of hear from folks. Oh, I know Laurie. So it's awesome to have you here. I had coffee with Lauren when I was in Tallahassee a couple months ago. So just delighted that you're joining us. Great. So there's a mixed bag of folks. There are some folks that love it. There are some folks that are shy about it. And there are some folks that are not a fan. We'll just have further instruction when we do the small groups later this evening. Awesome. So I just want to get us out of all of the surveys. This is great information. Like I mentioned, our goal here is that you come back next time. So this gives us important information about your preferences and the educational tools that you enjoy the most. With that, I am going to share a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. We're going to lay the ground of community building, storytelling, we're going to be learning. And the way in which we're going to do that is that we're going to talk about CFC. And I'm glad that we are, because there's a couple of folks that are new. So I think that this is a perfect opportunity to kind of hear a little bit more about who we are. And then a good moment to kind of connect with our mission. Again, we will be covering from the Advocates Bible the 3 key principles of pro-choice Catholicism, and then we'll have some short time at the end for some community reflections. That is going to include some sharing in the big group, and we will do a very small couple of minutes small group for folks to connect for those that desire to do that. So that is our game plan for today. I believe that my colleagues have send the Advocates Bible PDF to the chat before we kind of jump in. Awesome. Thank you. So today we're going to be covering pages 7 to 21st are going to be the ones that we really dive in, and wanted to get us started a little bit on the Catholic social justice piece, but I don't know anyone better to cover that than Jamie Manson, CFC's president. So we'll have Jamie next time and kind of talk a little bit more about Catholic social teaching and the common strengths that we have with the reproductive justice framework. So that said, I want to start with just the term pro-choice Catholicism. It's a term that I use every single day. We send communications with that term. We have a lot of people come to us and say that I am a pro-choice Catholic, and I've been a pro-choice Catholic. So I want to hear from folks. What comes to mind when you hear the term pro-choice Catholic, and when was the first time that you heard that term pro-choice Catholic? And folks can share in the chat or raise your virtual hand. For that, you go to the reactions and you raise hand if you, like me, just like that. If you want to participate, you can also just raise your hand, and I'm seeing all of your faces. So what comes to your mind when you hear pro-choice Catholic? And what was the first time that you heard that term? Any takers? Go ahead. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure this thing out. I don't have I'm Jane Munoz.
Welcome.
May I share?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. The first time I heard it was when Roe versus Wade was passed, and I was so upset. I went to my priest and said, I don't know if I can go to mass. I'm so upset with this choice. And my church, and I just started Googling pro-choice, and I found pro-choice Catholics that way. That's how I got here today, just by looking it up and searching for you people.
Awesome. That's so great. Yay, Google.
I'm happy to be here.
So glad you're here as well. I also saw Tracy. Tracy, you raised your hand. So you still want to share?
Oh, sure, but my story is almost identical.
Okay.
I have always been pro-choice. I
Mhm.
converted to Catholicism in my early 20s, still being pro-choice. I debated that topic for years.
Mhm.
And then through my work now with unhoused families,
Mhm.
I've just decided that it's going to be something that I advocate for. So again, I Googled pro-choice Catholics
Love that.
and I found Catholics for Choice.
That's me. Find us through the internets. I have talked to a lot of folks that saw a literal sign when the Dobbs decision happened last year. They were like watching the news and they saw a sign that said Catholics support abortion access, and they Googled and they found us. So there are just so many different ways that folks find their way to us. And I'm just so grateful to hear that you were able to connect with us through the internet. And I'm sure that some other folks have found us in different ways. So thank you so much for sharing. And Catholics for Choice ensures that more and more people know this term and understand what it means to be a pro-choice Catholic. CFC has worked to express Catholic values on sexual and reproductive health and rights as ordinary people live them. And I think that's really key. You're going to hear me say this a billion times, but we are organizing and advocating for reproductive rights and justice because of our faith and not in spite of it. So that is what I love about this work, that we're doing it grounded in our common values, and that those common values are getting us together. I see some other folks that also resonate with what folks shared about finding us through the internet. So just a quick, let's get a little fun question here. What year was Catholics for Choice founded? If you can just take a guess. Oh, I have Elizabeth. Elizabeth, you want to share? Well,
Yeah.
let's wait for the poll. Let's wait for the poll and then you share.
Got
Yes. Yeah.
it.
Uh,
Oh, are
Uh-oh.
we putting the poll in first?
Yes. And
Okay.
then you share. Yeah, I'm excited, you know. See some folks. Lauren, I can't, oh, I guess that it's we have to stop the poll to see the results, right?
Think so. Let me see. You know,
Oh, there are some folks who were like, don't know. There are some folks who got it right. So Elizabeth, what year was Catholics for Choice founded?
1973.
Yes, we are turning 50 years this year, which is
Yeah.
a very, no?
The Advocate's Bible.
Oh, there we go. Yay, right.
I read it.
Yes, absolutely. Amazing. So we are turning 50. We're actually celebrating starting this year into next year, our 50th anniversary. We also know that Roe would have turned 50 this year as well. So we are starting our 50th year and continue to be a much needed voice in the fight for reproductive rights and justice. One of the most important things that I want you to remember from this conversation, and the reason that we're just like starting this whole journey together, talking about CFC and us as an organization, is so you get to know and feel familiar with our mission. And Catholics for Choice mission is very concise. I think it's very compelling, if I may say so myself, but it's to encounter to action for reproductive rights and justice grounded in their faith. So to educate, to encounter, to educate, and to embolden, those three core components of our mission is also our mandate to do the advocacy work that we do the organizing work that we do as well. So to encounter, to educate, and to embolden. And what does it mean to encounter people? Is that we want to make sure that we're building a community of pro-choice Catholics. I have the honor of meeting with so many pro-choice Catholics, talk about their journeys, talk about what brings them to this work. And some of the things that I hear again and again is that folks feel alone in their communities, that they don't know if other folks in their parishes or in their communities, in their schools, are also pro-choice folks. I wish there was a secret handshake, but there's not. So contact us. We want to make sure that we are recruiting a group of folks, but that we are also making sure that you stay, like I said, that you find a home here in this place. So that is what we mean by encountering and organizing. We call it building a base, but it's just simply a way of creating community and making sure that you know that this is a home for you and that you can come back. And that we want to make sure that you can be here in the fullness of yourself and bring the fullness of your skills as well. So that's what we mean when we say that we encounter. When we say that our mission is to educate, is exactly this. And I think that the education piece is not a one-way street. It's not just me. I'm going to do a lot of talking today, but hopefully you will also do a little bit of sharing at the end. This is not only about just me sharing or us going over things. This is a collective learning experience where we get to listen as well, where I get to listen to you all and kind of your stories and what it is to be a pro-choice Catholic in where you exist. We have other activities like the Green Mass that we had a couple of weeks ago, where we shared prayer and where we were counter-protesting the Red Mass. And we have other opportunities where late in September, we celebrated International Safe Abortion Day, and we heard from Catholic abortion providers. It was so inspiring to hear from folks who are providing access to reproductive health care, grounded again because of their faith and not in spite of it. So we participate in education, either through collective learning, story sharing, but it's definitely a mutual road as well. And lastly, we embolden, and this is where we take action. This is where a lot of the faithful advocacy happened, and part of that emboldening at CFC, we do it through campaigns. I am so always excited and inspired to hear about folks who want to be part of our campaigns, who want to share their story, to speak with their elected officials, to leave postcards in their parishes saying that a pro-choice Catholic was here, that outreach to other folks that might be like-minded folks. So this emboldening is where we as a community take action. Right now, we are emboldening pro-choice Catholics in Ohio to vote for issue 1. Is anyone here from Ohio other than Nicole and Lauren? Nicole are from Ohio. Any Ohioans present? I know we had, Elizabeth. Yay, Elizabeth. We had plenty of folks who register from Ohio, so hopefully they join us next time. So we are emboldening pro-choice Catholics in Ohio to vote yes on issue 1 and support the state constitutional change that will secure and that will ensure that people do get the access to reproductive health that they need. And yes, it is abortion, but it's also IVF. It's also other, oh, awesome. Kathy is phone banking in Ohio. So that's amazing. Great to hear, Kathy. I know that a lot of this work is a lot of us can contribute to that as well. So we Encounter, we educate and we embolden. There is plenty more about the mission of CFC in the first initial pages of the Advocates Bible. If you got to take a look at them, amazing. If you have any questions, we can definitely talk a little bit about some questions at the end of our time together. And a big piece actually, before going into the principles of pro-choice Catholicism, leadership development, making sure that we support pro-choice Catholics like you is literally the beating heart of the work that we do at Catholics for Choice. The ensuring that you can be supported in this advocacy journey to encounter, to educate, and to embolden others is literally our job to advocacy. And that's something that I'm always telling folks. I think we have an image of an activist in our head, and it's someone with like a bullhorn and it's like protesting. And if that's you, beautiful, we're so proud of you. But if that's not you, there is space here to be an advocate still. There is an opportunity to bring your unique set of skills to this work and to this community. So we want to, I know that there, that folks are sometimes like, what can I offer? And I'm sure that we can find out, right, that what you can offer. And I see a lot of folks sharing, which is awesome, that are doing canvassing, doing phone banking, just doing so much. And we know that a lot of that is visible, and there's some of it, the advocacy work, that is not visible, that is invisible. There are folks who donate. There are folks who bring coffee to poll workers. There are folks who are writing postcards and that are just being shy and leaving a couple of postcards in the parish and see what happens. So just want to bring home the fact that doesn't matter what is our visual of an ideal advocate, we know that you all here are actually the visual of an ideal advocate, is someone who shows up for a community that wants to learn and that is willing to offer their gifts, whatever that is. So we are going to, and sometimes being an advocate means going to the Vatican and sharing people's abortion stories and just letting folks in the Synod Synod on Synodality know that pro-choice Catholics exist, despite the hierarchies wanting to pretend that pro-choice Catholics don't. So gonna take a pause from me speaking here, and I will love for you all to see Jamie Manson do this advocacy walk here on last week. So let's just take a moment. Can folks hear?
No, I don't hear it.
1 second.
Just done this so many times, and yet sometimes it happens. So shall we try again?
Can't hear anything.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's working. Oh. Well, we can do, yeah, we can share it. Awesome. We'll share it in the chat for folks to be able to take a look. The video is of Jamie delivering a booklet with pro-choice Catholic stories to the Vatican as part of Jamie's ongoing participation of the Synod on Synodality last week. Have folks been hearing about this? Have folks heard about the Synod on Synodality? Yeah, I see some nuts. If there are some folks that are excited about checking the video, let's make sure that we have the link for you all to do that. And the really important piece here is that there are many, many ways of being an advocate. Sometimes, like, we go to the Vatican, but you need to go to the Vatican to be a pro-choice Catholic who's taking action. You can do that in your own community. So let us go into the 3 principles of pro-choice Catholicism. And thank you, folks, for posting the link to the video. Great. So principles of pro-choice Catholicism. 3 is our number today. We talked about kind of the 3 key components of our mission: to educate, to to a little bit more of the Advocates Bible's content, and this 3 key things, the very basics of pro-choice Catholicism. And those are 3, we talk about it as the pillars of pro-choice Catholicism. And the first one is conscience. The second one is social justice. And the third one is religious freedom. When we think about conscience, I'm wondering if someone wants to share the chat or out loud, raising your hand, what comes to mind when you think about conscience? Like, what is like your first image that you think conscience, and that's what you think?
I would share. Is there a questionnaire or no?
No, this is just open sharing. Whoever wants
Well,
to.
as far as voting conscience, that's what I've been taught all my life. And I'm sitting here every time. Right now in Ohio, the bishops have a huge campaign against our reproductive rights.
Mhm.
They've spent over $900,000 towards it. And they are trying to step between a woman and her God. And this is so insulting to me. And my conscience on what I should do or what anybody should do, they're trying to put themselves in between us and God. And that's what it angers me.
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth, for sharing. We hear a lot of that, voting and conscience. Anyone else? I see guilt. I see conscience. This is sense of right and wrong. Any additional taker? Conscience is one of the most fascinating and also important pieces of this work that we do. And it's a God-given gift, is part of, like, it's so key to Catholic social teaching, not social teaching, just Catholic teaching. And it's the final arbiter in any moral decisions, is that sense of connecting with what we know is right. And it's also been very featured in a lot of theological texts, in a lot of early thinking around the church. And there we can see folks that are as popular and as controversial as well as Thomas Aquinas. And it talks about what happened, right, when conscience conflicts with the law. So this is not what we something that the church foreparents have been grappling with for the entirety of this history of this institution. And it's also, and what I really think it's key to it is that it really integrates a couple of parts of our identity. And it's that knowledge of ourselves, is awareness of our moral principles, and also the urge to act. I think that a lot of people are like, I was moved by my conscience to do X, Y, and Z. And I think Elizabeth brought a great point here. There's all about conscience in page 19. And it's not, and I think that this is something I will tell people this all day. It is not something that institutions have. It is something that humans have. Conscience is a God-given gift that humans possess that is the final arbiter in any moral decision. Elizabeth just brought an amazing example of issue 1, which was the actually reflection question that I wanted to bring. And it's that, like, conscience informs a pro-choice Catholic person who is wanting to support the amendments that will constitutionally guarantee the right to access. So this is not something that is happening in the plane of the spiritual and of the up there, right? This is something that still have material impacts and affect the material conditions of our lives. So folks can use this idea of conscience and say, this is actually moving me to take action. Just a quick note that Ohio is not the only place where we will see this sort of a ballot amendment. We will also see them in Colorado. Lori was just chatting about Arizona is seeking signatures. There's so many different states. So this is going to become Kansas. Awesome. Yeah, Arizona is a big one. And a lot of folks did great work to make that possible. And I can talk about that all day, but we're moving to Catholic social justice real quick. Catholic social justice is our second principle of pro-choice Catholicism, and is this belief that to deny someone reproductive health care is to, at Catholics for Choice, right? We can read more in page 20. We believe that to deny someone this very important need for accessing reproductive health care is to actually attack their basic human rights. And we know that that goes against a very rich history of Catholic social teaching. I can say for my own personal experience, when I got my theology degree, a lot of the folks that were leading the conversation around social justice and faith were Catholics, were Catholic thinkers, were Catholic theologians, were Catholic folks working in different parts of the world. So there is a rich, rich history of Catholic social justice, and I'm very glad to say that we will be exploring this a bit more with Jamie next week. But there is this idea of the preferential option for those who are in need, that there are just like such a rich tradition that could be definitely used in favor of supporting reproductive rights and justice. And lastly, and I'm just going a little bit quickly here because we do want to make sure that we have time to share, is the issue. Apologies. Great. It's erased against myself. There we go. The last principle of pro-choice Catholicism is religious freedom. And this is one that is also shows up in our work very much so on a regular basis. This is the idea that you're free to practice your religion, but others are also free to live their lives outside of the parameters of people's religious beliefs. And this overreach of the Catholic hierarchy on reproductive freedom actually really attacks people's right to religious freedom. And it's something that I'm very proud to say that we work with people in different, this idea that one religious group's beliefs cannot be codified into law. And that idea should be protected. One of the things that I wanted to kind of bring up is like how religious freedom can help us work with people from other faiths to advocate policy that will guarantee reproductive rights. And yeah, like I mentioned, we do that, and it's a joy. Any thoughts on reproductive freedom? Because that's actually one that we don't usually discuss very often. So I'm wondering if there are some questions. About religious freedom, about conscience, any questions about all that I just kind of talked about?
Religious freedom.
Yeah.
I get totally mystified by why we don't continue to have a separation of church and state. And it constantly is that we are infusing religion into government and state. And I don't understand how we can convince religions to step aside, or our government should really, truly take away their nonprofit status and tax them, because they are involved with politics more and more every year.
Yeah.
So help me understand this. And why isn't the IRS going after them?
Yeah, that's definitely something that comes up a lot. I saw some nods from others also resonating with that, and I also see some folks in the chat as well. Additional questions about conscience, about our mission, about us as an organization that you kind of are curious about? Raise your hand, ask them, and ask it in the chat. Is it that you're I see a hand? Yes.
I was wondering, are we going to like have specific events that we participate in and show up to show our support for reproductive freedom? I mean, I'm going back. I was marching on Tallahassee in the early 80s for the ERA and for reproductive freedom. And when I was there, like we would march on the square and I would be at one end and the priests would be at the other end. But again, I think I contribute to MOVE, which is another political group that during the last election, when we were voting for Raphael Warnock and Ossoff, I went to where they allowed me to be there. I was not allowed to tell anybody I was Democratic. Well, I was there to remind people to call 3 friends to remind them that today was election day and they needed to vote. But, you know, I would pick and choose the people that I would, you know, recommend that to. So I feel really, really good because we were successful in Georgia for that. So is our group going to have any kind of demonstration?
Love this. This is exactly what we're doing, a call to action. We are doing very we're doing organizing work in Florida, in Ohio, and in Colorado. If you're not in those places, like there will be still plenty of opportunities for you all to still take action. One of our asks for today is that we offer a conversation with you and like everyone here in our organizing team, and kind of think about where you are and what are some opportunities for advocacy in your community, in the context of your life, in the context of your skills, in the context of your capacity. I know that we're in different places in different moments in our lives, and I'm a firm believer that there are opportunities to take action regardless of where you are in life. For example, I'm in the moment of my life that I have a 2-year-old, and I know that what I can do to show up for this movement is very different with what I could do 10 years ago, or when I didn't have a little one. So I know that we want to get to know you. We want to get to understand kind of your community, where you are, and support you in that taking action. So yes. we're getting a little bit ahead of the game, and I'm gonna let Lauren just facilitating a sharing opportunity for folks. So I'm just gonna step back, and I'll be back shortly.
Thanks for your facilitation, Steph. And it's so nice to be with all